Washington Commanders OTAs, organized team activities, are about to kick off this year here in 2025. And today, there's still 6 questions that have yet to be answered before we put the helmets on at Commanders practice later this month. But before we get into the pre-OTA questions that I want to have answered at some point this offseason, make sure you guys click that subscribe button for extensive OTA coverage. We're going to let you guys know everything that's going on during OTAs, who's playing well, who maybe is not playing so well. We'll have a full winners and losers list by the end of OTAs. And of course, it all ends with mandatory minicamp. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already, if you want to know everything that's going on at Commanders OTAs. All right, so let's start with the first question here. And this one's pretty obvious, is will the Commanders add another edge rusher at some point this offseason? And this is certainly something I think a lot of Commanders fans want to get done before the Commanders line up when they play week 1 versus the New York Football Giants. Because right now, you look at the edge rusher room, and it's not exactly great, all right? Dorrance Armstrong, Cleveland Ferrell, Dietrich Wise, Jacob Martin, all these guys are kind of okay. Dorrance Armstrong, I'd say, is more of like a number 2 defensive end than a number 1. Ferrell's more of an early down run stuffing type of guy. Wise is more of a pass rushing specialist, and same thing with Jacob Martin. But I certainly think that the Washington Commanders could add another big name edge rusher this offseason. There's still some names that are out there. Trey Hendrickson is obviously the big one that could be got via trade. We'll see how his situation with the Bengals kind of plays out this offseason. But there's also some very good free agency options, like some really good veterans still available on the open market. Guys like Von Miller, Matthew Judon, Zadarius Smith, and Jadeveon Clowney are all potential targets that the Washington Commanders can get at this position. I think all of these guys on this list can start for the Washington Commanders on day 1, the second they sign their contract with this football team. So let me know down there in the comments section. Obviously, we hope that they can land Trey Hendrickson in a trade, but if they can't, which free agent edge rusher would you like to sign? Type VM for Von Miller, type MJ for Matthew Judon, type ZM for Zadarius Smith, or JC for Jadeveon Clowney. This will be the pinned comment on today's show. YouTube's going to throw an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. When that happens, take advantage of that time. But let me know which edge rusher you want the Commanders to sign this offseason. Another question that I want to see answered at some point this offseason here is, what does the defensive line rotation look like this year for the Washington Commanders? Because they got a lot of pieces that could be moved around here. Now, I do think, in their 4-2 base, kind of 4 down front, I do think Daron Payne and Jerzon Newton will be on the field most of the time. Javon Kinlaw will absolutely rotate in. But then also, like we talked about with the edge rusher group, who's going to play on early downs? Who's going to play in pass-heavy situations? How is the rotation going to look? And, based on the practices this week, who's playing with the first team, who's playing with the second team, that's going to tell us a lot about what the plan is for the defensive line here with the Washington Commanders in 2025. Another question that could be answered this week during OTAs is, do rookies get first team reps? The ones that are expected to start, I'm talking about. And the 2 guys I'm talking about specifically are Trey Amos, the cornerback out of Ole Miss, and then Josh Conerly Jr., the right tackle out of Oregon. These are your first 2 top draft picks, and both of these guys are expected to get a lot of playing time for you this year. So the question is, does Dan Quinn put them with the first teamers right away from the start, right from the jump at OTAs, or does he make them kind of earn it a little bit here? So that's going to be a question that I'm going to be certainly looking out for here as we approach the first OTA practices this week. And coming up here on the Commanders Report, we got 3 more questions that I want to see answered during the first couple of OTAs here for the Washington Commanders during the 2025 offseason. But before we get into all that, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Fanatics, where you guys can get a Jaden Daniels jersey in your closet today at a great price from our friends at Fanatics when you go to chatsports.com/Daniels. That's our special link. If you click that link down there in the comments and description of today's show, and you make a purchase, Fanatics sends us part of the proceeds here at the Commanders Report. So we greatly appreciate your guys' support. And if you guys want to get a Jaden Daniels jersey and you're planning on getting one anyway, help out the channel today. Use chatsports.com/Daniels to make it happen. Another question I want to see answered here for the Washington Commanders is which second-year guys that didn't get a lot of playing time last year get more run during the early portion of the offseason program here for the Washington Commanders. Some sophomores to watch here. Johnny Newton, who was more of a rotational piece last year. Is he going to move into more of a starting role this year, or is he going to continue to play that rotational role that he played last year for the Washington Commanders? Ben Sinnott, obviously bring back Zach Ertz, but Sinnott is a young player that this team really believes in. What's going to be the, kind of distribution of plays between Zach Ertz and Ben Sinnott this year? Also, Luke McCaffrey, somebody you spent a pretty darn high draft pick on last year, a third-round pick, somebody that got some run as a special teamer, but not much as a true receiver. What kind of steps has he taken during the offseason this year? I can't wait to see his growth. Then Tyler Owens, Jordan McGee, and Dominique Hampton are all kind of defenders in the middle of the Commanders' defense that they're hoping are going to take the next step here for the Washington Commanders in 2025. All those guys are very athletically gifted, so the Commanders are hoping that the coaching after their first year on the bench really paid off and they're ready to take a larger role in this unit. Then another question that I want to see answered here is who gets the first crack at the starting bandit position? Because if you know anything about the Dan Quinn defense, guys, you know that they love to play those three safety packages. Right now, Quan Martin and Will Harris seem to be the two guys that are entrenched into at least two of those three safety spots, and I think that they're hoping that one of their young players can step up and be that third safety for them this year. Last year, Percy Butler was their third safety. Honestly, didn't play all that well. He is back with the Commanders this year, so he might get first crack this week. But guys like Tyler Owens, Dominique Hampton, Robert McDaniel, the UDFA out of Jackson State, super versatile player. These are players that I think are going to be trying to rise up the depth chart during the offseason program here as we approach training camp. So that is definitely something I'm going to be keeping an eye out for. And then the final question that I want to have answered here is what exactly is going to be Deebo Samuel's role in the Commanders offense this year? And what I mean by that is where is he going to be lining up? Is he going to be lining up in the backfield? Are they going to be putting him in the sniffer position? Are they going to be putting him out wide? Or are they going to be putting him in the slot? Or all of the above? I want to see some of the creativity come out for Kliff Kingsbury. I know it's, voluntary workouts and all that different stuff, and we probably won't get like a for sure answer on this until we get full padded practices and stuff like that during training camp. But this is certainly, we're definitely going to be keeping a close eye on how the Commanders plan on using Deebo Samuel, because I think if they just plan on using him as a traditional wide receiver 2 on the outside, I think, they're kind of missing out on an opportunity to use one of the best Swiss Army knives in the National Football League in a very unique role. Kliff Kingsbury did a really good job last year putting his players in positions to succeed, and I think to put Deebo in a position to succeed, you got to move him all around the formation, use him in pre-snap motion, orbit motions, jet sweeps, obviously those wide receiver screens that Kliff Kingsbury loves to run on early downs. I expect Deebo to be an early down monster for the Washington Commanders this year and get a lot of design touches, because you get the ball in his hands in space, he's going to definitely do good things with that football. So let me know down there in the comments section, over or under 1,000 yards from scrimmage for Deebo Samuel this year. So this is as a rusher and as a receiver. How many yards do you think he's going to get? Do you think he gets over 1,000 yards or under 1,000 yards? Let me know what you guys' thoughts are down there in the comments section. Make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Really do appreciate all of your guys' support. We got more Commanders content coming all throughout OTAs this year. So if you want that in-depth OTA inside look, make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and join the Commanders Report family today.